Ooh, happiness. That is a loaded word, isn't it? Because happiness means so many different things to each person. But is it possible for us to access your most expansive and unbridled happiness? Well, let's talk about it today on the podcast. Welcome to the Love in Progress podcast, where we deep dive into self reflection and healing as a catalyst for better relationships and leadership. I am your host and educator, Neena, and I'm here to be a guide to you in that process. Let's get started. Now, ever since I started my journey as a psychologist, I nerd out about some of the research-based techniques to being able to experience your best psychology, the best mental functioning and well-being in your life. And so today I'm going to nerd out a little bit on you because if you've ever wanted to know some actual practices that will make a direct impact on the fulfillment and happiness that you have in your life, then today you're going to love and eat up this podcast. So I want to talk a little bit about the fact that there is a science to happiness. It isn't just something that we happen to experience in our life. And while most of us have probably spent our lives responding to the conditions of our life and either being in seasons where we're happy or we're not, I want you to know that daily intentional practices can literally increase your ability to feel happy every single day. And that happiness, by the way, can have an upward trend. You can experience more expansive happiness than you ever have before, and one that feels uncaged, that it isn't just, oh, okay, I feel pretty good, but that you can see more opportunities to feel more happy, to relate better in your relationships, to experience more fulfillment in your professional life. Like happiness permeates so many elements of our wellness. And I want you to know that it isn't something that has to be out of your control. You can actually be really intentional in building in habits that are going to support your happiness. So let's talk about some of my very favorite ones. And I might have to do this in a series because there's so many great ways to cultivate happiness. But I want to talk about some of the most simple and impactful, and I think foundational ways to be able to build that unbridled happiness, to really unlock your potential to feel happy every day. And really, it begins by believing that you can. There is a principle taught pretty universally called the growth mindset. And the principle of growth mindset is pretty foundational in any of our mindset principles. So I really want to talk about it here as we begin. The growth versus fixed mindset principle is essentially that you believe that despite how you were raised, despite your genetics, despite the conditions that you're in, the situations and experiences that you are actually actively living right now, that you have the potential to shift and change the reality you are experiencing. A growth mindset is a belief that you can change, that despite what you have been through or who you have been in the past, that you have the potential to change. And this is foundational in pretty much every other growth related principle for a huge reason. You wouldn't start into something already self-sabotaging the belief that you could even change in the first place. It's likely going to halt you before you ever begin. So, one of the things that actually contributes to your happiness is the belief that things and you can change, that you can learn, that you can adapt. And I want you to continually, day to day, find ways to solidify that belief. Because a growth mindset isn't just something you choose one time and then you're magically in that space. But I would guarantee that looking at the way that you perceive yourself, you already have a belief that you are growth minded in certain areas. Maybe if you just look back at your life and think, I didn't know how to ride a bike, but I figured out how to do that. Or I didn't know how to write a sentence or read a book, and yet I figured out how to do those things. But then there's other areas where we're maybe practicing a little bit of a fixed mindset. Well, I was raised in a poor household, so I really don't have the growth potential to have a healthy financial relationship with money. That's a big one that holds people back. Or perhaps you have a fixed mindset when it comes to being happy. I've really experienced some big challenges in my life, some huge setbacks, some mental health challenges, and I just don't think that's something I'm capable of anymore. And so, what we want to do is we want to start by approaching, I hope, everything in your life with the intention to know that every day is a fresh start. Every day is a chance for you to choose hope. And when you do, it shows up in your happiness. So, shifting that mindset belief out of the fixed and into the growth is fundamental in your happiness. Now, second thing I want to talk about is practicing gratitude. This one I think gets spoken about a lot, but I want to approach it from a different vantage point. I believe that putting pen to paper and writing down all the things that you're grateful for can be helpful, but it's going to be more impactful if you're coming at it from a place of true intentional appreciation. Not just going through the motions, but actually having a belief inside of you that you are taking a beat to actually appreciate these things. Yes, you can go through the motions and it will shift your mood and your focus. That's what gratitude does anyway. But consider the possibility that before you sit down to write some of the things in your life that you just want to sit in appreciation and gratitude for, that you take a beat and you breathe and you still your mind and you get to a place where you're not rushing around with all of the challenges and the worries and the stressors of your day, but can instead focus on your breathing and say, I'm grateful I'm breathing today. I'm grateful my heart is beating without me even having to ask it. I'm grateful that I have another day here to think, to feel, to connect, to grow, and then move into a gratitude practice because it's flowing from a place not of resentment or of obligation, but instead from true appreciation. And what's so cool about practicing gratitude is that one, it's one of the highest vibrations that you can run at, the highest one being authenticity. So I love that gratitude is right up there and helps you kind of make that little shift to being a person who is acting out of appreciation. But what's so cool about that being that highest vibration is that it's very difficult to run any other emotions at the same time. Things like fear, anger, discouragement, frustration, all of that cannot run at the same time as gratitude. So if you can stay focused on this energy of appreciation, it's been clinically proven to help increase your overall positive emotions, to help improve your mental health, to enhance your relationships, to help with your physical health, specifically your better sleep quality, lower blood pressure, stronger immune system. It's also going to help with a lot of long-term effects. One of my favorite studies that I found in preparation for this was it talked about longitudinal studies, which are ones that are done long term, meaning over several decades typically. And what they've found is that individuals who consistently practice gratitude over time tend to experience sustained increases in happiness, meaning they have long spouts of enjoying their life. Doesn't that sound like something you want to opt into? And it helps with life satisfaction, looking over their life, surveying the situation and saying, I feel good about where I'm at. I think those are things that we all desire to create, yes? Next, I want to talk about having a sense of fulfillment and purpose. This is really going to help your daily happiness. And I have had some firsthand experiences with this. Many of you know my background as a child psychologist, and it was something literally that I imagined as a child. I found a journal in fourth or fifth grade, I think, where I had said, I want to be an elementary school counselor. I want to help kids feel happier. And in my own fourth grade, fifth grade terms, essentially their mental health. And what was so cool was I had not remembered that. I had that specific desire and passion. A lot of things shifted as I went through junior high and high school and college, and I ended up studying sociology. But in that sociological study, I did a social psychology class that reignited my love for mental health and the processes of thinking. And it was so intriguing and interesting to me that I ended up going to a graduate school fair and meeting with several grad school directors to be able to talk about their programs and settled in on school psychology, which is a mental health professional that works with school-aged children. And it was so cool because one, I loved that graduate program. It was the first time I was introduced to positive psychology, what I'm sharing with you here today. But two, it really was fulfilling for me in that desire to want to impact children's lives. And so the study of it was fun and engaging and exciting for me. The practice of it as a professional was also very fulfilling and engaging, and it transitioned really beautifully into motherhood and ultimately to my other professional goals as a parent coach and relationship coach and mindset coach. It's been so fun. So that sense of fulfillment and purpose doesn't have to be something that you identified when you were 10, but it needs to be something that right now, as you're choosing happiness, you're also choosing into that purpose and that fulfillment. And you may be listening to this and thinking, Neena, I don't know what my purpose is. And I would invite you to go back and look at experiences over the last couple of years, ones that really lit your fire. What were you doing? Who were you with? And what feelings did you elicit in yourself as you did that thing? That will likely help guide you back to that purpose. Yes, I loved being a mental health professional, and it was super translatable into my motherhood. Yes. But the purpose I was seeking was helping people, was being a mentor, walking them through experiences where on the other side I could leave them improved. And that sense of purpose has carried out through a wide array of my professional aspirations, especially as an entrepreneur when I've opened and worked through several different business structures. So, attaching to a purpose, which can shift over the years, absolutely, but attaching to that purpose will give you greater fulfillment. It'll give you that excitement and that vigor for you to be able to intentionally build your life. And what's so cool about this in the research is that it increases your life satisfaction. You have better mental health outcomes, better physical health, better resiliency to stress, enhanced motivation, as you can imagine. If you're working towards something that feels purposeful and impactful in the world, right? It's also going to help you stay engaged towards those goals because, again, you see the greater purpose in front of you. And what I also love about this is that it elicits positive social relationships. Most people, when it comes to fulfillment and purpose, it's the altruism. It's the idea that they can make a difference outside of themselves. And I will say that that is also a common thread when it comes to the how of happiness. It's being able to feel like you're a part of something greater, which I love so much. Next, I want to talk about optimism because I think optimists get a bad rap. They seem kind of like that, sunny, sunshine, rainbows, butterflies, hearts, all of that vibe. And it just seems kind of a little shallow, perhaps, maybe a little naive or innocent. And I'm here to tell you, having lived a lot of different kinds of experiences in life in my almost 40 years, that I can tell you that optimism is the key to being able to be emotionally resilient. Holding that hope that whatever is happening to you is purposeful in teaching you how to understand better what it is that you want. Optimism to me is really understanding the power of learning, of seeing everything truly as a lesson, whether it's an exact lesson by example. You like what you see and you realize the aspects of what you want to emulate and take with you into the future, or you're learning by warning. Wow, that is really something I do not want to create in my life. I do not want to perpetuate in my relationships. I do not want to carry into the future. Both of those are pretty key. And I think overall, optimism isn't like looking at a cloud, looking at a situation that seems really heavy, dark, and lacking hope, and seeing that silver lining around it, but really knowing that there's sunshine, that makes that silver lining in the first place. And it's really what makes the cloud feel so ominous and dark is because there is such a great light hidden behind it. And I think as we approach optimism that way, not as something that's naive, but as a filter into our world, that everything's working out for us, that things are placed intentionally in our spaces, in our focus, so that we can learn by example or by warning, and that everything has an opportunity to be a teacher, to help us cultivate hope or to detract from it. And here's the question I would ask you if it comes to judging optimism or the tendency to avoid optimism. Friend, how is it going for you? How does it feel to always be looking for the cons in life? How does it feel to always be worrying about the other shoe dropping? How does it feel to be at a space where you expect the worst from people? I just don't think that's going to fulfill you in the way that you think it will. There has been times when I would not identify myself as an optimist for seasons through challenge and trial. And I will tell you, it was probably the lowest times of my life. So, speaking from experience, I want you to just play with the idea of approaching your world like an optimist. Everything's working out for you, everything is intentional. The universe is a friendly, lovely, loving place for you, and seeing how you feel because of it. Because here's what I know: those that practice optimism experience resilience at an extremely elevated level compared to those who identify as realists. They also practice healthier coping strategies, which I love so much, the ability really to put into action resiliency. That's all that coping is. When something really sucks, when the shit hits the fan, what do they do to help bounce back? Yep, they figured it out. Hope that it's healthier coping ones, the ones that aren't attached to addiction or to substances, but are literally working to create deeper connections, to facilitate personal healing, and overall create better outcomes for themselves. That's worth fighting for, yes? They also have enhanced social connections. Who would have thought? Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody that's like a Debbie Downer or just like finding things to complain about? And while I try at the same time to hold space for them to feel whatever they need to feel, it's draining. It's not someone I typically choose to hang out with because it's not an enhancing experience. So, those that are optimistic typically have great social connections. They also experience improved physical health. Are we seeing a thread here? Your happiness literally affects your physical health, my friends. How cool, right? And kind of along with optimism, I wanted to touch on the principle of laughing because I think that's a habit that we kind of phase out of when we get to adulthood. And I want to just light a little fire in you to find opportunities to laugh. I kind of joke that my husband is my husband because I knew he would entertain me my whole life. That man literally keeps me laughing. My children also do hilarious stuff. But you know what? When I'm in a bad mood, nothing is funny. So, taking an opportunity to practice some emotional resilience, doing my own personal coping strategies, get in a better frame of mind, realize I'm dealing with my own mess. Gosh, that lightens the mood, doesn't it? Makes things much more laughable. And what's so cool about implementing more opportunities to laugh is that, yes, it's going to increase your mood. It's clinically proven to do so, but it also improves your physical health. I don't know if you know this, but it helps with the capacity and expansion of those beautiful lungs of yours. It also helps with circulation when you laugh. It also promotes muscle health, specifically releasing the tension and supporting muscle relaxation. It also boosts your immune system. And my favorite thing that laughing does is that it triggers endorphins. And endorphins, one, they give us energy, but they also increase our desire to want to connect. So cool, right? The endorphins also help to reduce stress. So laughing intentionally can help be a coping strategy for you. It's also going to help as a natural painkiller, which I know for so many people struggling with chronic pain or chronic illness, that's a huge motivator. It can eliminate that pain by stimulating essentially the brain's pain modulating pathways. So that increases your pain tolerance and also helps to release a bit of it. So I just love optimism. I love laughing. I do this funny practice for those that attend my yoga, where we get into happy baby, where you're on your back and you're grabbing your feet, and you do feel very ridiculous in that space. And I will have them just cackle until they naturally laugh, and it just lightens things. Oh goodness, it's such a beautiful practice. I try to find things to laugh at every day. Ideally about myself, if something feels a little too heavy and judgmental, or in the relationships, the people around me, friends, family members, all of that. But if nothing else, I'll pull up a really stupid video. If the internet has provided us nothing else, it is entertainment for sure. And you probably have your go-to videos. I always put a time limit on my screen time because I know that's ultimately not going to help facilitate the kind of mental health I want. But sometimes if I'm having a really hard time shaking my mood, a little bit of a reset to something silly and stupid like a video that I know will make me laugh is really helpful. Lastly, because I am a holistic wellness coach, I have to talk to you about the physiology in your body contributing to your happiness, my friends. What you need to understand is that the role of your gut is actually pinnacle in helping you to be able to feel expansive, unbridled happiness. I don't know if you know this, but 90% of serotonin, which is your primary happy hormone, is produced in the gut. And when I say the gut, I mean your esophagus all the way down your digestive tract and out the other end. It has some physical responses that help to digest food and then ultimately send it where it needs to go in the body. But one of the primary things that your gut runs off of is chemical reactions. It's being elicited from the exposure to what's being put in it, and then it's running on a chemical balance system. Your gut has trillions of bacteria, which is more than there are stars in the galaxy. It has so many different kinds of bacteria that are constantly ebbing and flowing based on how we are caring for our gut. And so, what I want to help you understand is that if you're struggling with your gut health, you're likely limiting your ability to feel expansive joy. And what's so interesting about this is because as a wellness coach, I do help people target their gut health as a way to influence a lot of other areas in their body. It affects your skin, your immune system, your sleep quality, a lot of areas. But one of the primary ways is their mental health. And I love being able to see the correlation of mothers and fathers with that improved gut health saying, I'm a new mom. I have more patience. I'm seeing and laughing off things that usually used to get me stuck and aggravated and angry. And it's all from approaching it within the gut microbiome. So, what can you do to help improve this? Well, there's a few different things. I really encourage people to be intentional about the way that they're eating, the way that they're fueling their body. You don't have to be high focus or obsession over that, but I would encourage you to eat a lot of real foods. If you can do it, most all of your foods to be real fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats, and really pay attention to those inflammatory ingredients. Those are messing up your gut. Likewise, if you're taking a probiotic, awesome, that's going to help with your gut. But remember that the gut is quite complicated and has trillions of different kinds of probiotic strains. So if you're looking to target a specific need in the gut, you're going to need to target a specific probiotic strain. And guess what? Those probiotics need to be fed with certain types of prebiotics. Each bacteria is hungry for different foods. Likewise, you might need some phytobiotics or postbiotics to help protect the growth of that bacteria in your gut microbiome, especially if you're struggling with leaky gut syndrome or other elements to make your gut unwell overall. So, what I would say is I'm going to put a couple of links here in the show notes that are going to help give you my top recommendations for approaching mental wellness and happiness from a gut brain approach. Since we know that most of the things affecting your mental health are actually happening in the gut, that's a great place to start. And then ultimately, how it's communicating to the brain is also going to make a big difference. It might not just be in your head, my friend, it might also be in your gut. One of my very favorite recommendations is actually from a company called Amare, and it's called Happy Juice, funnily enough, and it helps to facilitate that happiness better than anything else I have seen or used or been recommended to me. So, as a friend, I would love to recommend that to you. I've got a discounted link here in the show notes as well. So, now that we understand some of these wonderful elements that we can incorporate into our life, here's the challenge for you today. I want you to work on just one of those things that I shared. What's one thing that you can practice today as you're listening to this podcast to help increase your happiness? And if you're saying, well, I've actually got a couple of these already in the bag, Neena, then try 2 or 3. If you're ambitious, I want to see how much happiness you can unbridle in your life. And if you are local to Lehi, Utah, I have an exclusive in-person event happening on March 9th. I would love to invite you to. At this live event, I'm going to be diving a little bit more into the how of happiness. We're going to have some joyful movement with some Pilates with another wellness instructor, as well as some live foot zoning techniques and training that's going to be happening. I'll also have some happy juice there for you to try. So if you're interested in attending a live event where I'll be doing some training, I will drop the ticket link in show notes as well. I know that you are meant to feel happiness every day. And no matter the circumstances in your life, I know you can. And this is something that I hope that you continue to drive forward towards with a massive goal in your life to just be happy. Because, gosh, you are deserving of a happy, fulfilling, lovely life. And I want you to believe it first and foremost. So let's go out and be happy, shall we? Remember to live well, look well, be well. Please check out any of my other free resources on my website or on my social media channels. And of course, email me as you try these techniques so I can hear about your success stories. I am rooting you on. Gosh, I really love to see how much your life improves with these happiness tactics. And I am so excited to see what a happy life you're going to build. Blessings to you. I'll see you on the next podcast.